Hey, Lee Robinson here at American Sentinel Canine. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your support. Hey, if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel or even share it. Real quick shout out to my wife. She gave me this awesome mug, American Sentinel Canine, established in 2000, right? And for those of you that know, we breed band dogs, but we also breed American Pit Bull Terriers. Our goal is to produce the ultimate family companion guardian, and obviously we produce hog dogs as well. I think the American Sentinel is when you get a good example of it, it's the premier dog in the world. I mean, to me, it does everything that a great dog should do. And obviously, it's composed largely of the game bred American Pit Bull Terrier, and that's my second favorite breed in the world. And I am pursuing perfection all the time. And Vince Lombardi said that if you pursue perfection, you will obtain excellence. There's no such thing really as perfection because you always have to evolve and grow to take things to the next level. But if you're honest and you acknowledge the weaknesses that you have, work on those weaknesses while surviving on your strengths, then you can refine those weaknesses and pursue perfection. And even though you'll always grow, and if you're intelligent, you'll always grow and see areas that you can improve. Keep working on those. And while perfection may be unobtainable, in your pursuit of it, if you're honest, you will obtain excellence. So the purpose of this video is to discuss some of those things, what it takes to pursue excellence in this industry. So let me share a screen here real quick. I have a document with some notes on it, and we are going to look at that document. I think this is it here. Let's see. Yes, this is it. Okay, so let me come back to my StreamYard so I can see what y'all are looking at. All right, so we have some notes that are going to outline some of the points in this video. Look, the dog industry as a whole needs to raise the bar. Okay, one of the hardest things for me to personally overcome, as I've been in this for 35 years of basically in this industry. The first 10 years I spent studying, asking myself, do I really want to do this? I developed my education. I knew that this is what I was called to do, but I lacked some of the resources needed. And that's one of the notes that we have down here at the bottom. It says, do you have the resources needed? And at that particular time, 35 years ago, I did not have the resources needed to be a breeder. But we were training dogs while I was in college and continuing to advance my skills and whatnot. But as time has gone on and I've developed those resources and I became a breeder, one of the hardest things that I have dealt with was, I'm going to call them the 1%ers, okay? The 1 or 2%ers of people out there that are hard to deal with. You have 100 clients, let's say, over a year or two or whatever it is. And over those 100 clients, 95% of them are like perfect. They're easy to get along with. They're easy to communicate. They tell you what they want. They know what they want, and you're able to provide them what they want, and everybody's happy, right? But then you have like 5% of the time, maybe like 1 in 20, right, where maybe the client is a little bit doesn't follow directions, doesn't do things right, and maybe they create a problem, or maybe the dog has a problem, or maybe the transport had a problem, and you have to deal with that. And out of that 5%, maybe 3 or 4 of those work out just fine, right? But you have that 1 in 100 that no matter what you do, they're not going to be happy. I'll give you a real short story for an example. I remember one winter we had an ice storm, and when we had that ice storm, the airports closed down, and we weren't going to be able to transport the dog as cargo. And so we called up the client and told them that there was ice on the runway, the airport shut down, there's nothing we can do about it. But as soon as the airports open back up, we'll get their dog to them ASAP and be glad to serve them as best we could. That was not acceptable to this client. He said, I don't care what's going on with the weather. That's not acceptable. You're going to get in your truck right now and you're going to drive that dog to me right now. I was like, no, sir, I am not going to do that. You are in West Texas. I'm in Mississippi. I'm not going to drive through an ice storm and deliver your dog. Besides, that's not the arrangements that we had. So I just sent him his money back and I was done with him. That type of stuff happens about 1 in 100 clients. Most clients are not that way. But when you've done this for 25 years as a breeder, you have a handful of clients because I've served, like 1,000 people over the years, right? So you have like 10 people, 1 in 100 that you've dealt with like that. And it's frustrating because you want to serve everybody to the best of your ability. And it takes a lot of time and work and money and resources, things that you personally sacrifice to serve your community the best that you can. But there are those types of people that are out there, people that are hard to deal with. So before you become a breeder, if you're interested in that, or if you're a client looking for a breeder, do some research on what it's like to be in this industry. It takes a lot of work to pursue excellence. And so we're going to discuss some of those things. In many ways, it's hard because it's costly, it's a lot of work, and things don't always work out like you want them to. And you may have to cull an animal that you have a lot of money in. And odds are, if I hate to say this because yes, we stand behind our dogs, but most people don't. Most people, you buy a dog from them, the guarantee is only good till you get to the end of the driveway. What happens tomorrow with most people, that's on you. That's unfortunately most dog breeders just do not have the resources to stand behind their dogs like they should. Um, and that's one of the things that we had again in our list was, do you have the resources to do this right, to do it professionally? Um, I knew that when I bought a lot of the dogs, and I was willing to take that risk. It's kind of like gambling. Yes, every dog is to a degree a gamble, but it's less of a gamble when you do your homework because you're going to obtain more information about that person and the dogs that you're dealing with. But and look, I'm going to diverge for just a minute. If you're not interested in this part of the conversation, please hang in here. We'll keep it brief. I've even asked myself, is this what I really need to do? I spoke to my pastor one time thinking, I spend so much time working with these dogs. It's like 80 hours a week, some more times than not, that it takes away from my family. It takes away from my time to study God's word. Am I really seeking God's will in this? Because I'm a human being, right? So even though I'm a Christian and I want to do the right thing and honor God in all that I do, there are times that it's taxing on a person's spirit and you can get frustrated and you are tempted to deal with those frustrating people the same way our society would like to deal with those people, but you have to hold yourself to a higher standard, not only because you're being a professional breeder in this industry, but also because if you believe in God, you have to honor God in all that you do. And so I spoke to him about it and said, I just sometimes I struggle with this. And he said, well, Lee, do you ever speak to your clients about God and His Word and their salvation? And I said, yes, actually, I do quite a bit of that, probably more than I should, because some people don't want to hear it. And he said, well, then you're doing God's work. Keep doing what you're doing because you're going to reach people that some other people won't reach. And so that's why I'm still in this for the public. It would be very easy for me to breed the dogs that I want for myself and to only have, 4 or 5 and keep myself happy, right? But I want to do more than that. I like breeding animals and I like serving my community. And so I have a list of what it takes to really raise the bar to a higher level. And we have health testing right off the bat. You have an adult dog that you've either purchased or raised, and you feel like this may be a breeding stock worthy animal. And that's going to be the first thing that you're going to look at with the parents before the pups are born. Obviously, the parents should have already gone through this whole list, right? So health testing is like the first thing that we have on this list, but we also need to look for confirmation. Now, why do I have confirmation before performance? And there's a reason for that. In my opinion, performance testing should come first. But when you're looking at a puppy, you don't know if that puppy is going to perform. All you can see in that puppy is confirmation at first. And then, as they age, maybe around 5 or 6 weeks, uh, you're starting to get an idea of what their nerves may be like. And then around 6 and 7 weeks, you're going to be able to start performance testing them a little bit, and you can get an idea of what their drive is like. And then around 7 and 8 weeks, you're getting an idea of their performance is like. And then once they're really driven, then you can see how do they behave when they're in high drive. Are they stable? Are you able to pick them up and sweet talk them and they be stable and not redirect their aggression towards you if you're trying to produce a protection dog? Now, this is just basically going to be prey drive analysis, this is not so much going to be defense drive, because obviously you shouldn't be putting defense on a puppy. So you're not going to really performance test puppies. Although, believe it or not, I know some people that try to do defense work with puppies. These are foolish people that personally I think you should avoid. Puppies are not protectors. Puppies are protected. Mothers and the pack protects the puppies. So don't ask a puppy to protect. You want to raise that animal up to be stable and confident, not to be fearful. So let it grow up before you put defense work into an adult dog. You can see some of their defense drives, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. To do a real brief analysis of it, maybe you have somebody walking through the bushes or something at night to see if that defense is there. But that's really all the extent that you should do. You shouldn't try to put pressure on a puppy in a defensive manner, because that's going to be questioning or testing their stability, and making possibly go into behavior that's unstable, and then you may have to euthanize an animal because you've created a problem. So avoid testing stability until a dog is older, unless you want to just do a real brief evaluation, like I said, from a distance, and there's not any pressure involved. Then when they're older, then you can put some pressure in the work. Next thing, is there consistency in the ancestry? Do you know about the parents and the grandparents and the great grandparents, the brothers and sisters, the nieces and nephews? If it's a repeat breeding, what was the first breeding like, etc. And then also the legacy. This is a little bit about the line. What is this bloodline known for? What is it? What are their traits? Do they have the traits needed for what it is that you're specifically looking for? And I should copy this word legacy and drop it down in the breeder part. I'm just going to drop it right here, because why not, right? I just want to make sure I discuss that when we talk about breeders as well. So when you're considering doing this as a breeder, or a trainer, okay, it could also be a trainer. Maybe I should put breeder slash trainer. So if you're interested in being a breeder or a trainer, do they really have the knowledge? And by knowledge, there's two components of knowledge. There's education and there's experience. And before you trust somebody, you need to be mindful of what it takes to be trustworthy, because trust requires two things. It requires competence, and it requires integrity. And so I have a long list of things that you need to look for when it comes to integrity. But before we jump down that rabbit hole, let's just keep the topic on what we have here. Do they really have the knowledge? Meaning, do they have the education? Look, for those of you that don't know, we've been breeding for 25 years, so we have the experience. My education goes back 35 years. So this is something that we have a lot of time and work invested in terms of education and experience in order to get our knowledge. Next, honesty. So honesty is very, very important. There's a lot of people out there that just will not be honest. Personally, right now, I'm kind of battling some difficulties with a particular person who has repeatedly been dishonest to me. I mean, time and time again, and it's very frustrating because I've tried to overlook it and tried to dismiss some of their dishonesty as forgetfulness. Maybe it wasn't full disclosure, because I like to give a person the benefit of the doubt, is what it comes down to. But it's repeatedly happened time and time again. So I know that full disclosure has not been there. There's a lot of half truths, and there's even some blatant lies. And that goes back to a person's honesty. And sometimes people are so dishonest that it's disrespectful, because not only are they being dishonest to you and probably attempt to gain money from you, but also it insults it's an insult to your competency. They think that you're so stupid that you won't even know the truth, even if they tell you a lie right in your face. Now, like I said, sometimes a little bit of that can be accident. For example, if a person has a 10-year-old dog and they say the dog's 9, so be it. But calling a 10-year-old dog 7, that's not just forgetfulness. That's that's beyond forgetfulness. Yes, you might not know if it's 9 or 10, but you should know if it's 7 or 6, right? Calling an 11-year-old dog 7 or 8, that's too much of a discrepancy, right? So there are times when a person is just flat out dishonest, saying a dog has never been bred before, but then seeing a dog in a photo that's tied, obviously that's just dishonesty. And then trying to tell somebody that dog's not tied, that we were holding them together. Well, as a person who's got a master's degree in artificial insemination and breeding, genetics, and things like that, and as a person who's bred thousands of animals, you're not going to be able to hold the genitalia of the male inside the genitalia of the female by just touching the dog on the cheeks. That's not going to happen. You're going to actually have to hold his genitalia inside of hers, because when he dismounts and turns around, it's going to come out. If you're just touching the head, you're going to have to hold it in there. It's not easy to keep a dog inside of a female unless they're knotted together. If they're not knotted together, there's no way they're going to turn around and stay in penetration by just touching the dog on the collar to keep him calm. It's nonsense. Okay, so don't let somebody insult your intelligence. These are things that I've experienced with people calling a 10-year-old dog 7, calling an 11-year-old dog 8, saying a dog has never been bred before because he couldn't tie inside of a female. And then you find a picture of them knotted together years earlier, and they knew it because they are in the photograph with the dog. These are just blatant lies, and they're only done or told for the purpose of trying to get your money. And that's insulting to your intelligence. Be careful of those type of people. They may have good dogs. This person I'm talking about actually has produced a number of good dogs, but it's just sometimes there's people that you have to ask yourself, are they really worth working with? So that's important. For the next one is to seek truth. All right. When you're a breeder, you need to seek truth, not only in the dogs and the people that you work with, but also in yourself. Avoid kennel blindness. When you are looking at your own dogs, you need to admit their strengths and their weaknesses. One of the things I do as a breeder, and when we make videos, in my videos, we put them out there for the public to see, and every client gets to see every video. So we will point out the strengths and the weaknesses of every puppy in those videos for them to see. And they don't have to worry about a sales pitch, all right? Because I'm picking the puppy up. A lot of times the first one I pick up is either the best puppy or the worst puppy in the litter. It's the ones in the middle stand out less, right? So the best ones and the worst ones stand out the most. So a lot of times those are the ones that I point at first as the best and the worst. And I'm going to tell you which one's the best and which one's the worst for what I personally like. Now that may be different for what a client needs. And so that's why I do it. I feel like there's no need to be dishonest to my client, because not every client wants the same thing that I want. There's a lot of clients that want a healthy animal, that want a stable animal, that might be able to protect, but that's not their number one priority. Their number one priority is to have, for some people, is to have a stable family companion. Not everybody wants a guardian. Some people just want a stable family companion, athletic dog that they can play with. All right. And so those type of dogs can be fine for someone, but they may not necessarily be the dog that someone else is looking for, if they want a sport dog, a protection dog, a sentry dog, or whatever. And so different people have different needs. And so by just putting it out there, we don't ever have to worry about our clients wondering, are they getting told the same thing about a particular animal that somebody else is getting told? Some people will say, hey, this one's, and look, same with pedigree, right? We'll pick up the pups. We show all the pups out of a particular breeding. And this is done from early on, whether it be the first week or the 5th week, the 6th week, 7th week, 8th week, 9th, whatever, 3 months later, whatever pup that we have, it's always been in that litter. We don't have some puppy miraculously show up at 8 weeks of age when you're ready to buy a dog that was never in any of the previous videos, because it's the one that's the color that you want, but really it's from a different litter. So we don't have to worry about that, because we put the truth out there for the people to see. And if you're going to be a breeder, I recommend that you do that. You show the pups when they're born, maybe a week later, 2 weeks later, and you make videos or pictures as you go, and all these pups are in the litter the whole time. There's not a change of pedigree just because you want to sell a dog to somebody and try to get their money. That's unethical. All right, that's a blatant lie when people do that type of stuff. All right, but kennel blindness. Look for the weaknesses. Survive off your strengths, but work on your weaknesses. And be careful to not only hear what you want to hear. There's some people that will only hear what they want when they're talking to a salesman. They're like, ooh, because they want to be successful, right? And since you want to be successful, you like to hear the compliments. You like to hear, this guy's got what I want. He may have said something you didn't like, but you focused on what you wanted because you're seeking that. And then because you're only hearing what you want to hear, you think it's the perfect story, right? The perfect case, when they may have actually told you, because they were being honest, some things that you didn't want to hear, but you dismissed it, thinking that you can work that out. All right, but now there's other people that are just the opposite of that. They only hear the negatives, right? So make sure you hear the whole truth, not just the good, not just the bad, but everything. All right, what are your desires? If you want to be a breeder, what are your desires in your business practice? One of the things that has always kind of bothered me is the number of people that have no desire to be professional. They use a lot of foul language. Maybe they use a lot of sexuality. Maybe they use a lot of materialistic stuff. They use music and emotion rather than fact in order to try to sell a dog. This is not the way to sell a dog to an intellectual. You can sell a dog to an emotional person, but by using that stuff. But when you sell a dog on an emotional basis, there's a higher chance of a problem. I don't want a problem. I don't want my clients to buy emotionally. I want them to buy after doing their study and their research to making sure that this animal is the right animal for them and that they are able to properly develop and train and condition that animal so they can develop it into being what's to fit their needs, right? So I don't ever use sexuality in our advertisement. We never put up beautiful women or fast cars or jewelry or stacks of money, or and I'm definitely not going to use uh, guns and violence or drugs or any type of uh, unprofessional stuff to promote our dogs. That's just, you see that type of stuff in certain industries, and I have no part of it, right? And I don't want any part of it. We're seeking to be a professional, and that's our goal as in business. And so we're going to advertise by showing you what the dogs can do and showing you health testing, and we're going to use our website and we're going to use YouTube. I don't do shorts on TikTok. I don't use a lot of shorts on Instagram and stuff like that, because those types of things tend to be emotional. It's a hook and bait. And maybe I need to up my game in my promotions to a certain degree. But even if I start making shorts, they're going to be done in an ethical manner. It's the emotion of our dogs is going to be playing with the kids or doing protection work or catching a wild hog. It's not going to be sexuality, drugs, or monetary goods, or um, cars and things like that, materialistic items. Okay. Why are you wanting to get into this business to begin with? Are you wanting to get into this business because you want to make a buck? Look, if you want to make a buck, you need to be excellent, and you're not going to be excellent at something that you don't love. If you want to be excellent at something, then, well, look, maybe there are some people that can do that. I can't do that. If I want to be excellent at something, I have to invest my time, my money, my work. I have to sacrifice many aspects of my life. I'm not going to do that for just money. We only live once. If we live 100 years, it's only 36,500 days. There's 365 days in a year. Multiply 365 by 100, you got 36,500 days. I don't want to waste my time doing something I don't like, right? I want to spend my time and effort and money on things that I love. What do I need to serve? I need to serve my Lord. I need to serve my family. I need to serve my community. I need to serve my friends, and I need to serve my clients. Maybe not exactly that order. Maybe my clients will come before some other things at some times in some places, but they're never going to come before my creator. And there's times it comes before my family, but it doesn't knowingly come before my family. I think you guys understand that. All right. Um, so why are you in this business to begin with? If it's not something that you love and you just want to make money, don't get into working dogs. Working dogs are probably the most expensive dog to reproduce. If you want to just peddle puppies to make a buck, which I am against doing, stick with toy breeds, right? They eat almost no food. Health testing should be done, but it's probably not. The kennels that they require are could be made out of plastic because they don't destroy anything. And you can keep a bunch of them in the same kennel because they don't ever get into conflicts. All right. The last thing you want if you're trying to breed for money is working dogs that are rough on equipment and can get rough with each other and cost a lot to test and evaluate and do and all those types of things. So be careful about getting into the business of breeding thinking you're just going to make a buck. Next, what is your goal? Is it to serve or is it just to sell? Like I just said, if your goal is just to sell, find something that, look, go cut grass, man. You can make a lot of money cutting grass if you're good at it. You can develop a small business, start off with yourself and a lawnmower and a pickup truck and a trailer and a weed eater and make yourself 100 grand a year, and then get yourself some hired help and make 150 grand and keep growing that business until you're a multimillionaire. Okay. It's not hard to make money if that's just your job, if that's your primary objective. Um, but is your goal to serve or just to sell? Your goal should not just be to sell. I mean, maybe if you just want to be a millionaire, but my goal is to serve my community and to serve my family, to serve my Lord, right? Get a license and be professional. You can buy a dog from somebody that doesn't have a license, but they're still good. If you want to have success, they still need to conduct themselves as a professional. I'll tell you right there, the pit bull community as a whole has a tendency of not being very professional. There's a lot of drugs involved with the pit bull community. Not everybody. There's some real good people involved with the pit bulls. Some of the best people I know have pit bulls. They're my favorite purebred dog in existence is the American Pit Bull Terrier. They are great, great dogs. But unfortunately, they are attracted by a lot of people that participate in things that I do not condone. So you'll see a lot of drugs involved with them. You'll see a lot of violence associated with the people that own them. But you can still be a professional. So who are you going to associate with? I recommend that you associate with professionals, regardless of the breed. And this is one of the reasons why I want to build a canine training facility, is because the people that are unprofessional are not going to be attracted to my dogs. If I'm running a canine training facility, they're going to be attracted to a different type of person, not somebody that's doing things on the up and up, right? So it's a way of distancing myself from the clients that I don't want. Will you stand behind your dogs? If so, what is your guarantee, or will you even have one? On the rare occasion that a person gets a dog that doesn't fit their need, or maybe they have to get rid of a dog because they got evicted or they got a divorce or they had some sort of personal problem, what are you going to do as a breeder to resolve that issue for your client, for your dog? All right. Do you have a deposit policy? Is the deposit policy non-refundable? We have a non-refundable deposit policy that there have been times that we will issue a refund, even though it's not our agreement, but we think it's probably in the best interest of ourselves to just occasionally give a refund on a deposit. And that's primarily when we can't deliver what's been promised. Or maybe it's a client that we don't really want to deal with. But generally speaking, our policy is a non-refundable deposit. And that's our policy because if we want to stick to our guns, that's our policy. So basically, I give a refund when I'm glad to cut ties with a person. And I'm glad to cut ties when I recognize that this person's going to be one of those 1%ers or 2%ers. Then we give a deposit so there's no hard feelings. They can go their own way. And there's still going to be probably some hard feelings from those types of people because you can't ever satisfy them even if you give them their money back. But basically speaking, we don't have a refundable deposit policy because we ask people to not place a purchase on a puppy unless they're committed. Because last thing we want is somebody to buy a puppy at an early stage, maybe during the pregnancy or when they're 3 weeks old or something like that, and then time comes that they're 8 weeks old, and that person doesn't have the finances to complete the purchase. And that has happened before. We had a guy that placed a deposit on a purchase almost a year before we did the breeding. It was like 11 months before we did the breeding. The breeding, or no, it wasn't. It was 7 months before we did the breeding. And the reason why I say seven was because the pregnancy was 2 months, and then delivery time was 2 more months. So delivery time was 11 months after their deposit, and they didn't have the money to complete the purchase, and they asked me to hold that dog for another month. We did. We held the dog for another month. They still didn't have the money to complete the purchase. They asked me to hold the dog an additional month. We did. The dog was now 4 months old. They still did not have the money to complete the purchase. So we told them we're going to have to sell the dog. We've given them 2 months of additional boarding for free beyond the delivery date. And they had given us no additional money, so we sold the dog, and they were upset about it. Look, you had literally 13 months to get prepared, and you didn't get prepared. Sorry, we're not going to give you a refund, because if you would have told us when the dog was 3 weeks old and we could have had time to find that dog a proper home, then maybe we could have worked with you. But if you're not going to work with us, we want to be professional, but you have a duty as a buyer to also be professional. So if you're interested in becoming a breeder, you need to figure out how are you going to deal with those types of situations, because the goal is to always be professional. Oh, and then when it didn't work out, that person, like a year after that, made up some lies about us, because that's what unethical people do. They want to blame someone else for their problems. All right. If they would have told us earlier, I would have been glad to help them. But then when they came back later on, they actually said we didn't deliver the dog because we were unable to. That's not what happened. We were literally able to deliver the dog that met the requirements, and they just didn't have the money. And there's long communication about that. They went out and blasted me, and I should have went out and blasted them about it, because I have everything documented. But this is one of those times where you battle yourself, and as a human being, you want to blast them, right? You want to blast them, and there's times that I've done that, but generally speaking, I don't like to do that. I want to be professional and be above that, and not blast a potential client. Now, I should have blasted this guy probably, because he was actually a breeder that was thinking about getting a dog from us, and I probably should have blasted him, because if he was unprofessional with us as a client, he's probably going to be unprofessional to his clients when he's as a breeder. So maybe someday I will, but that's not my top priority. Will you stand behind your dogs with a guarantee, or will you even have one? I have never had a dog that I purchased that did not work out that was guaranteed. And if it was guaranteed, it was not honored. Let's put it that way. Okay. So we've had dogs that we bought to develop our program, and some of those things, sometimes they didn't work out. And it may have been a good dog. So I definitely, if it was a good dog, I definitely wasn't going to contact the breeder and ask him to replace it, but it just didn't meet my goals. It was a good dog, but maybe it was a game bred American Pit Bull Terrier that had all the traits that maybe would be required from your standard pit bull breeder, but it didn't have the traits that I wanted. And so that's not really that breeder's fault. That was just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And so I would either sell it or give it away to a person that would be happy with the animal, and the animal would have a home. Do you have the resources needed to do the right thing? All right, what this means is, do you have the land to breed the animals, and facilities to take care of the animals properly? Do you have the resources to buy feed and medical expenses that may pop up unexpectedly? If you're a breeder and a client has a problem with a purchase because you can't deliver, not because they can't deliver, but because you can't deliver. For example, that guy that said we couldn't deliver, if could not have delivered, we 100% should either transfer his deposit to a future breeding of their choosing, or give them their money back. That's what we should do as an ethical breeder. But that's not what all happened. And like I said, everything's on record. Do you have the resources to give the money back if things don't work out and it's your fault as a breeder. If you don't have the resources for that, then maybe you shouldn't take the deposit. And if you are going to take the deposit, maybe you should set it aside for that as a possible refund should you not be able to deliver. Unless your policy says we're only going to do a transfer to a future breeding. That's an ethical thing to do as long as the client understands that beforehand. Okay, so make sure your whatever your guarantee is or lack thereof, that's disclosed beforehand. One time we had a transporter, I'll never use this transporter again, that said no refunds at all. Well, that was not disclosed. And we had a person that was going to have a dog transported. And then the client actually paid for the transport. I forwarded it to the transporter. And that client literally like 3 minutes later called back and said, you know what, they'd rather come and pick up the dog because it would allow them to see the parents. So we called up and asked the transport and asked for a refund. They said, we don't do any refunds ever. I'm like, you haven't even drove a mile yet. You haven't even rescheduled your route yet. So that's kind of ridiculous. Well, guess what? When a person's that unreasonable, they'll never get our business again. So they were like, well, do I need to come here to pick up this pup? I said, well, you need to come here and pick up the pup because you were paid to come here and pick up the pup. Now, whether we give you the pup or not will be another thing, but I'm going to have to talk to the client to see if they want to use you or not. But you've already been paid to come, so come. And if you don't get a pup, then your life is still easier because even though you've already been paid, you may not even have to drive to that destination, but I expect you to be here. They didn't like that. They didn't want to do that. Even though they were paid to drive here and there, they didn't want to drive here because it was out of their way, even though they got paid to do it. Again, unethical behavior. If you've been paid to drive a certain distance, it's easier to drive there without the pup than it is with the pup. So let's be realistic here. If you're paid for something, provide the service. All right. What is your facility like? Can people visit, and will you let clients come and talk? Will you let clients talk to other clients? If you want to be a breeder, in my opinion, you need to let people come and see the animals that they are going to buy. They have a right to know what the parents are like, not just live off of your word. You may not want people there, but if you don't want people there, how can you ethically expect somebody to give you $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, but then not even get to see the family? All right. So anyway, these are just a few notes on what I believe that it takes to pursue excellence and perfection. Y'all take care. I'm going to go ahead and end the video, and y'all have a blessed day.